Hey guys, Sean here of CineMalin Film Commentary and Criticism. Now, it's been a while since I've done a video-style review instead of a written essay or film review, but because of the film that I'm about to review, Nymphomaniac Volume 1 by Lars von Trier, which I believe is actually half a film and not really a complete film, I think that the venue of the video essay is appropriate. This will still be up at my website, cmfilmcommentary.com, along with interviews with several filmmakers, film producers, musicians, and, of course, written film reviews and essays of commentary on film. But for now, let's stick with the video essay format for Lars von Trier's newest film, Nymphomaniac. Now, Nymphomaniac is a 5.5-hour film that von Trier, who is a Danish film director and noted provocateur of both cinephiles and regular audiences alike, has made another feature following 2011's Melancholia. Melancholia, as you might know, was a masterpiece about the destruction of the planet, or the impending end of planet Earth. He's made other films that are provocative before, but his newest one was provocative from the very outset of the title. It's called Nymphomaniac, and because of its extensive length, 5.5 hours starring major Hollywood actors like Shia LaBeouf, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Willem Dafoe, and Uma Thurman, his producers insisted that he cut it for American theatrical distribution into 2 volumes. So, like Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2, we have Nymphomaniac Volume 1 and Nymphomaniac Volume 2 coming out partly in March, partly in April, and both already released in Europe and on video on demand in the US. But their theatrical releases are 2 separate animals. Nymphomaniac Volume 1 in this case stars Stacy Martin as Jo, a young nymphomaniac who, in the future, as a 50-year-old-ish, middle-aged young woman named Charlotte Gainsbourg, still named Jo, played by Charlotte Gainsbourg, Jo is recounting her life for a man after she's found brutally abused and close to death by Seligman, a Jewish, vaguely British character played by Stellan Skarsgard, a Lars von Trier stalwart. Now, Gainsbourg's character and Stacy Martin's character are the same, but Gainsbourg is narrating, with help from Seligman, who she's in conversation with, the existence of her life as a nymphomaniac in wherever we might be. We assume it's Britain because there seem to be English accents on the performers in the film, but there's no real specific agenda here as to where we are or in what time period. We do know, however, that there's a tape recorder in Seligman's house, that Stacy Martin as Jo is experiencing something maybe 25 or 30 years before the adult Jo is, and that Nymphomaniac Volume 2 will be more extensively about the adult or the older version of Jo. As we see her in Volume 1, Stacy Martin, it's her first role ever, so far as we know. Stacy Martin is a British model, and she's truly fantastic as the younger Jo, a woman who decides to abhor love and to join a secret society, or rather to form one, to abolish any construct of love within her social relationships. Now, the way that von Trier chooses to pursue this character's life is through his typically provocative and antagonistic style. Basically, Nymphomaniac is about a character who is many things, has many things, none of which are a god or a religious spirituality. She abhors the ideas of conventional society, shall we say. She refuses to indulge in the concept of romance or in the belief in some sort of stuck religion, or even to believe that she is a good person. There's no sort of constructive ism except for a nihilism that guides Jo's behavior as she starts to develop an addiction to sexual behavior. And as she starts to act out along with her friend, played by Sophie Kennedy-Clark, who most recently was in the Best Picture-nominated Philomena, Stacy Martin, as the young Jo, begins to exhibit signs of, shall we say, emotional detachment. She seems to be able to remove herself from the social expectations of her family. Her family is played by Christian Slater in what I think is his best performance in almost 20 years, since possibly True Romance even, and Connie Nielsen, who, as we know her here, is only referred to as Jo's mother, and Jo, in fact, refers to her as a cold bitch. Now, Nielsen is also someone who, as a Danish actress, has had a wide, amount of success in the Hollywood paradigm, as Christian Slater has, but neither of them has been very good in film over the last several years. They're both acclaimed actors. It just seems that they've been absent from the Hollywood scene in a major way in many, many years. What was Connie Nielsen's last huge role? It couldn't have been The Last Winter in 2006 or Constantine in 2005. It's hard to think about, but this film brings its star material to the forefront of our consideration. Von Trier has casted Nymphomaniacs Volume 1 and 2 perfectly, but I want to stick with Volume 1 here. Again, I called it at the beginning of this video essay half a film. I think that that is correct. Though it runs 2.5 hours long, Volume 1 ends on a supposed cliffhanger when Stacy Martin's version of Joe has fallen, presumably in love, with a young man named Jerome, played here by Shia LaBeouf, over the course of Joe's life. She has several different experiences with Jerome. Now, Shia has a great role here. This is a meaty, dangerous role for him in the sense that he has been acting out in public for a very long time, and yet this is an adult performance. This is the first time that we're really seeing Shia LaBeouf as a young adult man growing in character. This is not the haphazard Indiana Jones light, the poor man's Indiana Jones child in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. This is not the boyish man who is, asking for a car in the Transformers films, nor is it the intrepid, dorky reporter in The Company You Keep. This is a real masculine man who's fighting against, the same kind of issues that Joe is socially, and yet the two of them seem to find one another in Volume 1. Well, if that'll happen in Volume 2 is the real cliffhanger at the end of Volume 1, because as Stacy Martin's character, Joe, reveals, in the future as Charlotte Gainsbourg's character, something seems to break in the relationship between her and Jerome. But we don't see that in Volume 1, nor do we expect to see it in Volume 2. That, in fact, is the cliffhanger. I won't leave this essay hanging on a cliffhanger, but I will describe Von Trier's truly masterful filmmaking here. You can see that Volume 1 has been designed to be a part of a larger whole. This film is an epic, much like I'm reminded of the nihilist version of Blue is the Warmest Color, in which love and sexuality and humor and pathos all come together, except in this case, the perspective that's guiding them is Lars von Trier's depression, which he has labeled Nymphomaniac as being the third part of a trilogy around. Depression seems to be the major themes of the films that he's made over the last 5 years, which include 2009's Antichrist, an excellent film that I would never ever watch again, starring Charlotte Gainsbourg and Willem Dafoe as a couple brought to the brink of madness by the death of their young child, and in Melancholia, which, while acclaimed at Cannes when it was released, never made it to the Oscars because Von Trier was made a persona non grata after some very disgusting comments at the Cannes Film Festival. Now, he was telling jokes, or what he thought were jokes, from the point of view of a depressed person at that time. And I think that what makes Nymphomaniac such a special volume set, Volumes 1 and 2. It's an encyclopedia of nymphomania and lies and deceit and emotional deconstruction and disestablishment. But what makes it such a special collection of stories, and it is anecdotal and episodic and jumping chronologically back and forth for the Joe character, what makes it so special is the fact that for the first time, Von Trier has made a true comedy. There's nothing truly horrifying about this film, though explicit sex is part of what has made Nymphomaniac already such a scandalous and notorious film. But actually, the sexuality within Nymphomaniac Volume 1, it all seems to be necessary. And what doesn't seem to be necessary, and what is truly indicative of Von Trier, is that his depression and the sensibilities which guide Nymphomaniac Volume 1 are all funny. Everything is hysterical. Seligman and Joe's conversations in the future or the present of the film are truly some of the funniest sequences of any film I've seen in the last several years. That's not just because it's not the sort of ribald comedy of the Seth Rogen characters or of the mainstream filmmakers who choose to take nihilism out of this world. This is not a Woody Allen agoraphobic absurdist comedy. This is one that seems to be deeply rooted in a reality in which there is no God, there is no love, there are no concepts of Hollywoodism or romance, and there is no getting around the careers of its stars. LaBeouf, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Stacy Martin, and Skarsgard are all fantastic here, but it's truly Christian Slater and Uma Thurman, characters who have appeared in Hollywood films that have not broken open any paradigms, but instead have catered to them, that are truly fantastic. Thurman in particular has only one scene that lasts about 10 minutes here, but it's the best scene in the entire film. For that reason, I recommend seeking out Nymphomaniac Volume 1, but not without necessarily planning to see Nymphomaniac Volume 2. Don't use it as a testing ground, use it as a part of the whole. This is an encyclopedia, as it were, and you need to see Nymphomaniac as a whole film. Probably like the Lord of the Rings films, in which you sit down and watch all three at a time, and maybe The Hobbit first, or the Star Wars films. Enjoy Nymphomaniac Volume 1 and then Nymphomaniac Volume 2. Be back soon with another video essay on Lars von Trier's Nymphomaniac series. Take care.